things that maybe the Walt Disney Company doesn't love, well, that would be lawsuits. And apparently there's one brewing over Blizzard Beach. This one's very interesting. Walt Disney World News today. No weight limits posted anywhere at Disney's Blizzard Beach water park despite lawsuit related to injury claim. This is by Katie Francis, June 7, 2025. When visiting Disney's Blizzard Beach water park, we noticed that there are no posted weight limits for any attraction at the park, despite a recent lawsuit involving a guest over the weight limit being injured on the downhill Double Dipper. Now, this, as the article suggests, does harken back to a lawsuit that was filed. Let me see if I have it right here from clickorlando.com. Walt Disney World faces lawsuit over Florida water slides accelerating speeds. Lawsuit accuses company of negligence and premises liability. So what basically happened here was someone over the standard weight limit for water slides actually went on a water slide, was injured, and is now suing over that fact. In the lawsuit, it says that on or about July 31st, 2021, plaintiff weighed approximately 334 pounds, exceeding ASTM's F237 7.3.2.2 maximum allowable weight limit for single rider water slides by 34 pounds. Now, what Walt Disney World News is saying here is there's no weight limits posted for any of these attractions, even though it's coming up particularly as a big fact in the lawsuit right there. So when Jonas and I were kind of looking at this story, we were kind of confused. We were like, well, what's really going on here? Is Disney bound to actually put up signage or weight restrictions on their water slides right here? And it's a little murky. It's weird. So if you look at the ASTM's certification standards, or standards in which they publish, right? And ASTM, it stands for, what was it? It was American Standard Testing of Materials, I believe. If you scroll down, and you can actually see where this says for single rider water slides for rider weight shall be a maximum of 300 pounds. Okay, that's what they say. Now, usually those kind of standards that they actually post aren't necessarily enforceable. Like usually, for a variety of industries, they're not like legally mandated. But in this case, they actually are. This is what gets really confusing about this whole story, because if you actually look at Florida state statute, it actually says that water slides must adhere to the ASTM standards. And it's like, well, that's really interesting. And that includes 300 pounds being the maximum that anybody can ride on a specific water slide. And if you actually look at Universal Studios and Volcano Bay, for example, they actually have a 300-pound maximum on many of their water slides, consistent with the ASTM standard. I was surprised to see it work. And you can kind of see that they have it posted both in the published guide that they can distribute out, or at the actual attraction, in which before you ride, you can look at the safety information. But Blizzard Beach doesn't actually do that. They don't have posted signage like that. Guys, should they, and are they liable for this specific suit? Because they don't.
That depends on whether the guy had Disney Plus or not, apparently.
Yeah.
That's a good point, actually, right there.
I was looking at the chairlift that you're showing there in the picture has, I don't know if it's posted anywhere. I found that it has a weight limit restriction of 375 pounds, but I don't know where that information is actually coming from, because I didn't find it from Disney specifically. Have you seen any signage in the park, Marvin? I haven't been to the water park at Disney in 2 years, so.
I haven't been to Blizzard Beach since I was 12 years old, but I've been to Typhoon Lagoon many times in the last year, and I've never seen anything about weight limits. It's, because it's not about weight limits, it's about no limits at the Disney water parks. But apparently there are limits. I don't know. I think that if this guy really did get horribly injured, because I can't imagine that they get away with that, even with some kind of precedent.
I would think so. I mean, I do wonder why the signage doesn't necessarily exist. And this is kind of why I went digging into the story, because usually, well, like, I don't mean to discredit at all Walt Disney World News today, but they've been kind to Disney, let's say, in the recent past. And so to critique this or to call this out, I thought was very unusual. But I think what they're trying to say here is that maybe there should be signage posted in these various places. and they simply aren't for whatever reason. I'm guessing
Well-
it had to maybe do with the RCID back in the day, where they just simply didn't have to because they were in a different set of maybe rules. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, that's quite possible, but I was going to say, now my experience as a lifeguard was limited, but I did work as a cast member as a lifeguard at Disney pools at the resorts. I never worked at the water park, but I worked with a lot of lifeguards that would come in and sub from the water parks, picking up shifts at the resorts. So we talked. Never was a weight limit to any attraction ever mentioned among us as far as our safety training. And we did safety training a lot. I mean, one of the things that I can say as a Disney lifeguard is I have faith in them now because I know how much safety training they go through. I want to say it was every 2 weeks I had to come in at like 6 a.m. and for 3 hours do safety training and, rescue training, CPR. We always went over that, pulling people out of the water, how to use the backboards, all of that stuff. So the lifeguards are extremely well trained, but with all of that training, I don't remember ever hearing about a weight limit as far as any particular attraction. So that is interesting that if that is true, obviously it is true what you said, there should be a 300-pound weight limit, then that's not mentioned. I wouldn't be surprised if it is a throwback to the days of RCID when perhaps they were outside or operating outside of a jurisdiction where they could be held accountable to this. So I would say that this is definitely a change that needs to take place because I've definitely seen it at Aquatica at SeaWorld where all of the weight limits are posted.
Yes, I do agree with this. I've seen this these signs posted before. The thing I was trying to remember was I remember there was kind of a controversy surrounding like specific water slides at Volcano Bay because apparently the splashdowns were maybe built a little short for how much velocity that guests actually gained while actually on those specific attractions right there. So you have a certain amount of speed that you're coming in at, and you need like a good run in order to take that speed and absorb that energy, and so that you slow down at a both comfortable and reasonable length there. But it's very interesting because there are certain water slides in Volcano Bay that don't actually do that, which I thought was very odd. And apparently, Universal noticed because I suppose people kept getting injured. And so they set those weight limits down to just dramatically low levels. And I know it was very controversial. People were like, whoa, wait a minute. This is like way lower than the average, like human male, for example. And it's like, well, yeah, because we're trying to keep you safe. Erika, I want to go ahead and ask you, not only should there be safety information posted, because I think we all kind of agree that, if there are restrictions, those should probably be put first and foremost. But do you think that this person has a lawsuit because of the lack of signage? And do you think that something will change maybe perhaps after this verdict?
I think it's just common sense. I mean, if it's in Florida law, and if Universal has set a precedence of having signage up, I think the guest absolutely has a case. And I think we're going to start seeing changes. Disney will start putting signs up. We do have a super chat. I was going to touch on that too, what our super chatter just mentioned.
Let me go ahead and incorporate it into the conversation. I'll go ahead and throw it back to you, Erika. Jay for $10. Let's see. I'm 300 plus pounds, and I suspect that posting the weight limit will make a lot of people irritated. But as a fatty, I do say that we need to hear that we can't ride something when it isn't safe. Part 1 of 2. Oh, well, thank you, Jay. I very much appreciate that. Go ahead, Erika.
And I was just going to say that Disney kind of has a recent history of not wanting to offend. And I imagine that might be in part why you don't see signage because, you can't offend almost any demographic out there.
If they are putting people at risk in the service of body positivity, then we have hit a whole new level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look what happened. Look what happened at Fun Spot with the drop tower. Yep. That weight and height is serious when it comes to thrill rides, and that particular race slide, it goes pretty quick. I mean, and you're coming down and then kind of bumping up and coming down again. So
Well, and safety
I don't.
restrictions are put on every attraction for various reasons. I mean, you see you see the list, whether you have back problems or you're pregnant, or I mean, the list goes on. That they want to let you know these are attractions. These are thrill attractions, and therefore there is potential for dangerous things to happen, especially if the attraction's not made to encompass to allow for certain things. I mean, I'm a bigger person. I think I'm not. I haven't had 300, but I'm 265. I've hit 270, and I still have to look at things to go, okay, am I safe to be on this or not? And also height is an issue. So yeah.
I have never understood the mentality of, because I remember first time I went to Wizarding World of Harry Potter, I could not get onto Forbidden Journey. And I was never angry at Universal over that. I was angry at myself. And then I dieted and worked out and came back and wrote it. And it was like a big, triumphant moment. But I can't, I've never understood no, they should let me on the ride. What do you want to die? Are you willing to die to not feel bad about yourself for a second? If you feel bad about yourself, eat a salad and go to the gym.
Yes. Yep. Go ahead, Erika.
No, I think Marvin hated on
this is someone who did it. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm saying it as someone who went through it. Sorry, Erika.
No, you're fine. I mean, and it's just common sense. I mean, look, I have in my spinal column, my cartilage is starting to wear down, and I have to be careful. Even if the signage says I'm safe on going, I have to assess, how is my back feeling right now? Can I handle the thrust of being shaken back and forth, forwards and backwards? And I have to use my own common sense, whether a signage is giving me a warning or not,
Yeah, I mean, you kind of take, at a certain point, you do take your safety into your own hands, and you do know your limits, and this is why safety information is posted to begin with. I remember when Disney first developed Hong Kong, what they found an interesting pattern with that populace, because people would actually go to the parks with their extended family. That includes their grandmothers and grandfathers, right? And they would go on Space Mountain, for example. Well, the populace there wasn't familiar with Space Mountain. They weren't familiar with, coasters and so forth. So, they would get on these attractions and not know that they were getting on, what was a pretty intense coaster, right? And so that's why with Shanghai and coasters going forward, all of that was exposed so that people could actually see the type of ride vehicle that they were actually getting on, and kind of know who could actually ride that and where it was appropriate to do that. This is why safety information is in place for a lot of dark rides and so forth, because something like Indiana Jones Adventure, you may not know what that experience is actually like until you actually get on board. So it's safety information is obviously super important. I'm just very surprised that for every single water slide being dictated by this kind of ASTM standard, that wasn't provided in the form of signage for any of these water slides, at least at Blizzard Beach. So I'm actually really glad that Walt Disney World News Today was actually bringing that forward, because it's just something that I wasn't aware of, but now we have a lawsuit over it. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the future.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.